We lost. Trump just gave up on Minneapolis and just decided he's done, I guess. Um, I am not optimistic. I don't think that any good's going to come from this, but yeah, we it's over. It's done. It's uh, it's frustrating. Where's the video? Oh, here it is. Let me pull this up. I got a Timcast IRL that I want to talk about, and then um, a oh no, that's the story from IRL. So yeah, we'll do this. Okay. So the Trump administration has just given up on Minneapolis. They pulled out. It's over. It's done.
The Atlantic reports Greg Bovino has lost his job. He is being pulled out. He has been ousted from his role as commander at large. Will be returning to El Centro, with others just saying outright he may have been fired. Now, Tricia McLaughlin says he is not relieved of his duties, but he is being pulled out. Tom Homan is being sent in, and I believe I don't know, I have the posts from Trump. I got so many posts, so much stuff is going on. We have this post from Donald Trump who said, I just had a very good telephone conversation with Mayor Jacob Frey of Minneapolis. Lots of progress is being made. Tom Homan will be meeting with him tomorrow in order to continue discussion. Thank you for your attention to this matter, President Trump.
That right there is the sound of Donald Trump giving in to the leftist psychopaths. That's it. That's it. It's over. There is no more democracy. The left has won with their insane violence, and just listen to the beginning of the list of things that Tim reads.
Shocking scenes out of Minneapolis. I think it's fair to call this at this point, I don't know, we've been saying civil strife for a while, but when you find out that there are state government officials, politicians that are actively organizing paramilitary actions and shadow law enforcement, it's like, do we call it a civil war yet? Some of you may be saying, wait, slow down there, Tim. What are you talking about? Well, I'm sure most of you have heard about the shooting of Alex Preddy. CBP agents in a scuffle. They yell, gun, gun. The guy's got a gun. One of the agents appears to disarm him. Looks like the gun may have gone off accidentally, and then they shot and killed this guy. Instantly.
I think it's reported that it was a SIG 320, so I'm wondering if... Here's the thing, right? You got 4 or 5 cops scuffling with this dude, and one of them hears a gunshot. They don't know if he has the gun, if someone else has the gun, if it was a negligent discharge. No one really knows what happened, so this is a very unfortunate event. But it still raises questions as who was this guy and why was he carrying a firearm at a protest? Not that you can't do that, but that it's probably not a good idea if you're the opposition to the government at this point. If you're opposition and you're protesting, it's probably not a good idea to be doing that with a firearm. Not saying he didn't have a right to do it, not saying he shouldn't have been doing it, just saying it comes with a lot of risks, and this unfortunately is one of those risks. But let's continue listening.
There's an occupation, an autonomous zone, something coordinated. We're now seeing videos of people being pulled over by de facto law enforcement that demand their papers to prove who they are. They have a database where they're tracking license plates. Someone in government is giving them this access or deeply involved. And it appears we have confirmation that governments, officials, and politicians in Minnesota are actively a part of an insurgency network to rebel, I'm not kidding, against the federal government. In fact, they call it a resistance network. And they admit, these politicians, that they are actively organizing this. Call it whatever you want. Now, we got to break down for you what happened with this shooting, of course.
Okay, so I think enough's been said there. So we have an insurgency in every sense of the word. And now I'm no counterinsurgency expert, but I know how you fight an insurgency is you cut off the supply lines, right? The problem is we can't cut off the supply lines because we would be cutting off the supply lines to everybody. You know, normally when we're fighting an insurgency, we're fighting it overseas and we're fighting people that are armed in countries that don't have gun stores. We're not fighting an insurgency of ideologues that disagree with us and are organizing throughout a state like Minnesota. It is um, concerning, to say the least, that there's kind of nothing we can do to stop them aside from just arresting people and brute forcing our way through it. And I don't think that's the answer here. And I think part of that is the reason that Trump pulled out is because he realized that the only way we win this is by brute forcing our way through it. I think you have two options: it's brute force or it's starve them out. And starving them out ain't going to work because these are people that are going home and then they're going to Aldi or Publix or Walmart and buying groceries. So without facial recognition and rolling them up, you don't really have an option. You have option one is roll them up. Option two is starve them out. You can't starve them out, so we've only got one choice. And it seems like Trump does not want to go after option one and start rolling people up and start taking these guys home. It seems like he wants to just wash his hands of this and say, hey, we're done. And I think that's being done politically because the optics are terrible. These ICE raids in Minneapolis specifically have looked horrible. The optics on them are atrocious. Like, it makes Trump look like a dictator. It makes America look like Nazi Germany. I totally understand with the way the left wing media spins these events. It's no wonder that these people are so easily able to say, this is the Gestapo, this is XYZ, insert buzzword here. Yeah, it's super easy for them to say that because it looks similar to it, even though it's because here's the thing is essentially they're doing the same thing in a different context, right? The Gestapo was rolling up Jews and taking them to concentration camps because Hitler didn't like the Jews. Hitler say Jews bad. The ICE agents are rolling up illegal immigrants and sending them home. The tactics don't change much. You have to arrest people and you have to take them somewhere to be sent off, whether it's to the gas chambers or back to Guatemala or wherever they're from. I I think it's a very disingenuous argument, right? Because I don't think the Trump administration was like, yeah, let's set up concentration camps. I don't think that's not happening. I think it was we're going to send these people home. And the analogy that I've heard a lot is if someone breaks into your house and you like tackle them and rough them up a little bit, and then you're like, "Hey, bro, what are you doing here? I'm going to drive you back to your house. Don't come back." That's essentially what we're doing with these illegal immigrants. And in some cases, it's they've broken into your house, they've raped your wife, you rough them up, and then drive them home. Like, and in some cases, they're just getting away with murder, sometimes literally, and just getting taken home. It's super frustrating. And what's even more frustrating is, when you start looking at life through a lens of, I hired you, right? I hired Trump to get the illegal immigrants and send them home. They're a drain on our country. They're a strain on our country, and they use more of our resources than they produce. They're overall illegal immigrants are bad for America. And anyone who disagrees with that is foolish or lying. There's always that option that most of them are probably lying. And yeah, get on your libertarian soapbox and scream, nobody's illegal. Okay, calm down, you silly libertarian. And this is coming from a libertarian. However, I understand that libertarianism does not work in its fullest form. We still need structure. We still need laws. We still need people to enforce laws. Libertarianism does not work unless everybody holds the same values. And as long as everyone holds the value of, I'm not going to bother you if you don't bother me specifically. You have Christianity and libertarians, and they don't mix because libertarians are like, sure, my 7-year-old can say fuck. And Christians are like, no, your 7-year-old shouldn't say that. That's not language appropriate to a 7-year-old. And then you'll have people like me in the middle that are like, I mean, if I had a 7-year-old and my 7-year-old said fuck, I would tell my 7-year-old, hey, you probably shouldn't say that. It's not a great word to use. Also, if you're going to say words like that towards people in a mean way, that's very disrespectful, and there's going to be consequences for that. You're going to get your ass whooped. However, if you stub your toe and you're like, ow, fuck, I'm not going to yell at you unless, like, there's company over, like, mind your P's and Q's. And, like, that's how my brother is with his daughters, is it's like, if you stub your toe and you're like, fuck, that hurt, no one's going to yell at you. But, like, if grandma's over, maybe don't, like, at least try not to. Now, fortunately, my mother doesn't care, and my mother was very loose with my language when I was a young boy. My mother was very loose with my language, and our agreement was, you can say whatever you want to say, but you're not going to swear at people. You're not going to cuss people out, specifically mom. And I pretty much respected that. But, if I was working on a car, a wrench slipped, busted my hand, fucking shit, god damn it, throw a wrench, You know how it goes when you're working on things. And that's libertarian, and that works perfectly fine because free speech, it applies to children. And my children in the future will be able to do that. Maybe not at 7 or 8, maybe not even 9 or 10. I know my example was kind of young, but I might at that age be like, hey, you shouldn't say that. That's not a word you should be using at your age. But free speech, I mean, if you're really heart set on using it, as long as you're not cussing at people and as long as you're not cussing in front of company, I don't care what you say. Like, what do I care? I mean, you're your own person. I don't know, when you start becoming a person, probably about 7 or 8, you start becoming a person. Yeah, once you're about 7 or 8, you can cuss. I don't care. Now, also, I don't want, like, my nephew who's turning 3, if you say bad words, he's just like, that's not a good word. That's not a good word. It's the funniest thing. My brother, he swore, and my nephew was like, that's not a good word, Dad. It is the funniest shit ever. Because, like, my brother is this tatted up, veteran biker dude, construction worker, and like all around like a pretty badass guy, and like he's just getting like owned by a 3-year-old. Like, that's not a good word, Dad. Yeah, you're right, bud. That's not a good word. It's the funniest thing ever. Because like, and when I say tatted, I mean like chest, fucking arms, ribs, legs. Like the only thing is like from wrist down isn't done, and like this and the face and the hands aren't done. Like, he's running out of space. Back piece, whole 9 yards. Or does he have a back piece? I don't remember. He might not have a back piece. He might just have a little one on his back. I don't remember. Regardless, my brother has a lot of money in tattoos. He's not smart. He does not care about the dollar bills. But it's funny to see him get told not to swear by a 3-year-old. But my point is, that if you have a bunch of libertarians sitting together, being libertarians, no one's surprised when the 3-year-old swears because they're libertarians and they're like, yeah, okay, that works. I forgot where I was going with this. Yeah, I lost my train of thought. I'm going to be honest. I totally lost my train of thought. I forgot where I was going with this. I don't know. Anyway, let's try to get this train back on the tracks. With all the we were talking about ICE, and somehow we got to ideology. I don't know. Long story short, the people that are fighting ICE. Oh yeah, we were talking about deporting people because they have different ideologies and whatnot. And the yeah, okay. I think I'm back on track. So obviously we hired Trump. We look at things through a lens of I hired Trump to um, I hired Trump to deport the illegals, right? So I hired the ICE agents. Tim Pool made a good point. Uh, he said, people are asking Tim, why are you licking the boot? And he says, no, you misunderstand. That's my boot. That is my boot stomping on your face. I bought that boot. I paid for that boot. And I've been looking at things that way a lot more. I've been looking at, like, for example, I got pulled over, and I'm like, I paid you to pull me over. Like, I'm not a fan of that, actually. And I actually got pulled over this morning on some bullshit. I didn't slow down fast enough on snowy roads. Apparently, you're supposed to be slamming on the brakes on snowy roads. I guess I don't know. But yeah, I got pulled over, and I basically told the cop, like, dude, I was slowing down. You know it. I know it. Like, what are we doing here? Standing on the side of the road for no fucking reason. You're gonna get hit by a car because no one pays attention. Like, is this worth your life? You're gonna hassle me over. And like, it was 35, and I might have been doing like 40 when I passed the sign, and I was still slowing down. So it's like, bro, you're gonna get run over 5 miles an hour. Like, come on, that's just foolish. But some people are like that, and it just be what it be. But I'm realizing that I'm paying for the privilege of getting pulled over. I'm not a fan of that. I don't like paying for things that I don't use. One of the things I don't really use is the police. Every time I've needed the police, it's been pretty useless. My neighbors have a dog that is very aggressive, and this dog tried to bite me. So I called the police to file a report so that there would be some level of documentation that this dog has been aggressive in the past. In the event that I had to hurt this dog to get it to stop hurting me, or potentially even shoot it if it were attacking me, or there's a lot of children in our neighborhood, God forbid. But in the event that this dog seriously hurt someone or got seriously hurt by someone because it was biting them or attacking a child or whatever the case may be, I wanted documentation that, like, this dog's been a problem. And I asked the officer, I'm like, how does self defense work in this situation? Does it matter that it's a dog? Like, and then the officer told me, like, yeah, no, you have a right to defend yourself. Because it's a dog, however, you might get charged with discharging a firearm within city limits. So essentially, what the cop told me is you can do everything right and you can still get in legal trouble. Because I told him, like, I carry all the time. And, there's, if I have my nephew with me, high probability I'm not going to try to fight this dog and hold a baby. I'm probably just going to smoke your fucking dog because your dog shouldn't be in my yard in the first place. So your dog can just get fucking shot. But, or even if my nieces were out, like, I'm not going to fight this dog. I'm not fighting dogs, not with my hands. I've been bit by dogs. I've been bit by relatively big dogs. I got bit by a Rottweiler once. You can see does it pick it up? Yeah, you can kind of see the scarring here. It ripped my finger from, like, here down, sliced the whole finger open, and then it actually doesn't, like, this one goes straight here. This one doesn't straighten all the way anymore. It's, like, kind of painful to straighten it. because it got in here real good. It got into this part real good too when it bit me, and finger's a little fucked up. But yeah, that was one finger that he got a hold of, and he tore it up kind of bad, and it was a whole situation. There's a lot more details, but just to keep it simple, there was no cops to call then because I was in the woods. Given the opportunity, I would have shot that dog. It was my dad's dog, actually. And, my dad stopped me from shooting the dog, which frustrating. But, you're in the woods with a dog that's going nuts. What do you do? I mean, you're in your driveway and there's a dog going nuts, biting the fuck out of your leg. What do you do? And for the cops to sit there and say, well, if you defend yourself, you still might get in legal trouble. Like, what the fuck? Like, what do I need to not get in legal trouble to defend myself? So something I've bought on the car side of things is dash cams, because my wife got in an accident recently. They couldn't determine fault because my wife had the green light. The lady that ran into my wife claimed to have the green light. She was blitzed. She was in a whole other world she didn't know. And the cops did nothing except make the situation worse. And I paid for that. I voted for that. I paid for that. And I'm getting to the point where I'm not regretting voting for Trump yet, but I'm definitely at a point where, and I tell all those stories to make this point. I don't like the fact that I have to pay taxes for a police department that's useless. I don't like the fact that I have to pay city taxes and the roads don't get plowed and the roads aren't well maintained. I don't like the fact that I'm paying for things and I'm not getting what I'm paying for. And I voted for Trump, and I voted for ICE raids, and I voted for stopping the illegal immigration. And I knew there were going to be dumb fucks that would fight the cops. And I knew there were going to be idiots that would try to go toe-to-toe with ICE agents. But I paid for that. I purchased that with my vote. That's what I paid for. That's what I wanted. And now I'm kind of feeling like I didn't get my money's worth, and I'm not a big fan. I'm going to be honest. Not a big fan at all. I don't like getting ripped off, folks. I really don't. And I feel like I'm getting ripped off. I feel like I'm getting really ripped off here. I feel like the Trump administration has taken us all for a little bit of a ride, and I feel like we've been made a fool of. I feel like Trump gave up on us, and it looks like Trump gave up on us. Now, deportations are up. Don't get me wrong. But it feels like when the pressure got put on, instead of Trump saying, no, you're not going to stop what the American people voted for, I'm calling in the Insurrection Act, and we're doubling down, because he totally could have at this point. He was like, yeah, actually, your feelings are hurt? All right. And here's the problem is, you got an army of retards on the left, and you got an army of pussies on the right. And I don't know who wins, but here's the thing, right? The retards are willing to pick up a flashbang and try to throw it back at the cops and blow their hand off. The army of retards does not understand that this isn't Call of Duty. You don't press X to throw the grenade back, and it resets the timer. You press X to throw the grenade back, and it blows up in your hand, and you fucking die. And they're lucky it was a flashbang and not anything more serious. If it were a more serious explosive, it could have been lethal. If it were held in a different place, it could have been lethal. If it was held here, it potentially could have had lethal side effects. The fact that they were holding it down low and it blew up and blew their hand apart, you're an idiot. But you're an idiot that's willing to pick up a grenade that you don't know what it does and try to throw it back at cops. You're a special kind of idiot. We don't have idiots like that. We have idiots, don't get me wrong. Of course we have idiots. But we are the kind of people that want to avoid confrontation. We're the kind of people that learn bushcraft so that when it gets rowdy, we can just dip out into the woods and we don't have to deal with the craziness. We're the kind of people that we see ICE fighting with people in Seattle or whatever, and we say, hey, no, we're out. We see autonomous zones being formed, and we say, yeah, actually, I'm going to take my truck and I'm going to go into the wilderness, and I'm going to just avoid this for a while and see what happens. And then they win, and they hardpoint, and they create autonomous zones, and they create their own law enforcement, and they create their own control. And we sit here like idiots going, how did it get to this point? I'll tell you how it got to this point. We sat on our hands, as Republicans do every time throughout history. We sat on our hands. We sat on our hands for a long time, and now here we are. So I don't know. Trump gave up on us, I guess. Hopefully something comes in the next couple days that, it appears that he didn't. But as of right now, it appears he gave up on us. And I am a little miffed because that's not what I voted for. I voted for the boot. I want the boot put down. And I'm not someone who's back the blue anymore. I'm not someone who's super pro cop anymore. I was at one point, and now I'm just kind of like, I don't want to say I'm over it, but I've realized that backing the blue doesn't get you anywhere. Backing the blue doesn't help you, right? I back the blue, and they tell me, well, you'll probably get arrested if you shoot a dog that's attacking you. I back the blue, and they tell me there's nothing I can do for your problem. We're here to protect and serve, but we're going to do neither of those things. I back the blue, and they basically say, hey, you're on your own. Well, if I'm on my own, then I'm on my own. And that's fine. But if I have to do your job, you can't come after me when I do your job. If I have to protect my family, if I have to protect my land, if I have to protect my property, you don't get to arrest me when I protect my property. If someone's going to throw a brick through my windshield because I drove down the wrong street and I smoked 3 rounds out of that windshield, I have to protect my family, my property, my person, because you have told me time and time again that's not my job. But it is your job. It's what I hired you to do. It's what I pay for. It's what I pay for in taxes. Your job is to protect me. If there is a riot, your job is to disperse the rioters. If there are protesters, your job is to make sure it stays peaceful. That's the other thing going on here is these are not peaceful protests. These are riots. And everybody wants to say, oh, it's a peaceful protest. It's a peaceful protest. It had no intention of being peaceful. Never did it have intention of being peaceful. Another thing I want to add, if it's this cold and they're doing this shit right now, imagine what this summer's going to be like. Holy shit. You won't be able to go anywhere this summer. I hope you don't like the cities because you ain't going into them this summer. And I'm not talking big cities. I'm talking any city. I saw someone posting on Facebook that Youngstown had ICE agents in it. And Youngstown is not a large city by any means. It's decent sized, but Youngstown, Ohio is not a large city. It's, I don't know, how big is Youngstown, Ohio? How many people live in Youngstown? Hang on. We got about 60,000 people in Youngstown, Ohio. So Youngstown, Ohio, decent size, but I don't know, how many people live in... How many people live in Minneapolis, just out of curiosity? Minneapolis has 428,000 people. So it's 425 to 425,000 to 427,000. So, you know, pretty big population in a city like Minneapolis compared to a city like Youngstown. So if we're seeing these if we're seeing these posts for Youngstown, you know, I mean, it's going to be big in every city. So I hope you're ready. And I'm also one last thing before I sign off here. I'm really tired of the right being like, well, you can't have a gun while you protest. Yes, you can. Yes, you fucking can. Probably not a good idea to do it, but you can do it. I'm getting real tired of these spineless conservatives. Well, it's 2A when it's my gun, but it's not 2A when it's your gun. It's 2A all the fucking time. I'll probably get into that tomorrow. It's 2A all the time. Always. Second Amendment applies to everybody. Second Amendment applies to the guy that you don't want to have a gun. I don't care if that's an unpopular opinion. I don't care if you don't like that opinion. The Second Amendment applies to the felon across the street just as much as it applies to the drug dealer the next town over, just as much as it applies to the truck driver next door, just as much as it applies to the milkman, to the fucking factory worker, the mailman, whatever. I don't care. The Second Amendment applies to everybody. It is a non-negotiable right. The right of the people to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed, period. That means no matter what. That doesn't mean the right of the good boys to keep and bear arms shall not be infringed. That means the right of the people, whether they're criminals, whether they're active members of society, whether they're homesteaders, whether they're farmers, no matter who you are, that right applies to you. It's even been ruled that felons have Second Amendment rights. I get very passionate about the Second Amendment, and we'll probably get into it tomorrow. Actually, we'll probably talk about the shooting tomorrow. Maybe, I don't know. I don't really like talking about shootings. I've seen so many people die. It's just after watching Charlie Kirk die, it kind of turns my stomach to talk about these shootings and stuff. But yeah, I don't know. That's all I got. I'm getting real tired of these rhinos being like, oh no, it's only Second Amendment when it's us. No, it's Second Amendment all the time. So yeah, that's all I got. I'll see y'all in the next one, I guess. Later. Or not.